When it comes to video game companies, I have a love-hate relationship with many of them. Companies like Capcom. Yes, Capcom makes a lot of mistakes, but they at least do some decent things once in a while, such as the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which I cannot stop playing. But I think the biggest love-hate relationship I have with a company is Konami. You can find videos on my channel of me being displeased with Konami and their decisions, such as the Metal Gear Solid 3 Pachinko machine, and of course Castlevania 64. Those were more in the days when I had no idea what I was doing on this channel, but those are some fun videos, so make sure you search for them and check them out, as they're sort of a vault of what RGT 85 used to be. But Konami is definitely a company that I love to hate, because let's face it, Konami in the 90s was awesome, and even in the late 80s they had so many great games, so many great franchises, but it just seems like they've lost their way. But Konami seems like they may be coming back to the forefront potentially, because at E3 2018 it's been revealed that they have two games coming out to the Nintendo Switch, one being an action-adventure game and one being a compilation. And right then and there, my brain just exploded. I wanted more information on this, but of course there isn't a lot of information to find. So in this video, we're going to pretty much dig up some information on this. We're going to look at the potential possibilities for what Konami could be doing for the Nintendo Switch, because this could actually be pretty cool. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and let's talk about Konami, the Nintendo Switch, and E3 2018, and what could potentially be happening.
Hey, RGT85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards!
So this is information about Konami doing a action-adventure game for the Nintendo Switch and a compilation game for the Nintendo Switch comes directly from the E3 show floor map. It is listed on Konami's listings as two of the games that they will have at the show floor event. So that's very interesting, I think, because let's face it, Konami hasn't really been all on board with the Nintendo Switch. We haven't seen a whole lot of things. So basically in this video, I want to just theorize first about the action-adventure game and then about the compilation. The action-adventure game will sort of bleed into the compilation part anyways, so it's better to talk about that first. Now, action-adventure games. Obviously, Konami has a lot of titles to choose from. You, of course, have games like Contra, but I think the most popular choice would be Castlevania, because let's face it, Bloodstained right now is a very hot property. Of course, their Kickstarter was an absolute success, but you can even look at Curse of the Moon, which recently released across the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox One. Curse of the Moon has already exceeded 100,000 units sold across all platforms. It's currently the #1 selling game on the Nintendo Switch eShop. It's been getting great reviews, including by myself. So Castlevania, I think, is definitely the IP that fits the action-adventure mold the best. Sure, it could be a new Contra, but let's face it, Contra hasn't been around since the Nintendo DS with Contra 4. I think Castlevania lends itself better to this action-adventure listing. Now we have to theorize what sort of Castlevania game it will be. I honestly don't foresee it being something like a 3D adventure game like we've seen in the Lords of Shadow series, because I don't think those are really working for Konami. And putting something on the Nintendo platform, you pretty much feel like they'll go with something more traditional. And they actually have done that before with the Castlevania Rebirth series the Rebirth series, which included Castlevania on the Nintendo WiiWare. Now that was a fantastic rendition of one of the Game Boy games, sort of a reimagining of that game, Castlevania the Adventure, for the Game Boy on the Nintendo Wii, and it was an exclusive title for the Nintendo Wii. A 2D side-scrolling Castlevania game, which is obviously what people want. People are voting with their wallets when it comes to Bloodstained, and you have to figure Konami has to see that. Konami has to see the success of this game, and considering Bloodstained is essentially what people wanted from Castlevania, it has to be a sort of red flag for them. Like, we have the Castlevania IP, we have the Belmonts, we have all these awesome characters and awesome games that people remember from the Castlevania series. Why not reintroduce it to a new generation on the Nintendo Switch? So I think that Castlevania will definitely be the action-adventure game. Now, there is one more possibility, but like I said, I feel like this will sort of bleed into the compilation part, and that is a Nintendo GameCube exclusive game that has never been released on another platform from Konami, and that would be Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Now, this was a reimagining of the original Metal Gear for the PlayStation 1, but sort of redone in Metal Gear Solid 2 style. It implemented a lot of things from there. It had some unique cutscenes, it had some interesting things that a lot of people didn't like. They felt Snake became a little less human and more like a super ninja or something, but I thought Metal Gear Solid: The the Twin Snakes was a fantastic game, and it's still a really good looking game as well. Now, Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes, like I said, was regulated to the GameCube and has never been re-released on any platform. So could we see a remaster of Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes? Nintendo worked with Konami on that game. There's a lot of Nintendo related little references within that game, and I think that would be a great fit, honestly. Even if that was just a standalone thing where they remastered Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes on its own, that would be a big push for the Nintendo Switch in terms of exclusives. The only way to play that game right now is via the GameCube, so unless you pick up a copy of that game, you can't play it on any other platform. So I definitely think that lends itself to the action-adventure game. And honestly, I think those are the main two IPs that really lend themselves to the action-adventure thing. I don't really foresee a new Contra. It would be awesome, but I feel like Contra has been sort of lost to the sands of time. So really, Castlevania and Metal Gear are the two things that I expect could potentially come from the action-adventure announcement. Now, the compilation thing, the sky is the limit with this, folks. When you look at all these IPs from Konami, it could literally be anything. Silent Hill, it could be something from Hudson Soft, like an Adventure Island compilation or something. But once again, I'm going to tap back into the Metal Gear Solid universe, because let's face it, these games have been remastered and re-released on other platforms. You can currently get the Metal Gear Solid HD collection on things like the PS3, which include various Metal Gear games from the Metal Gear universe, and I think that would be an excellent fit for the Nintendo Switch. They even released these games on Vita, and of course it contains arguably the greatest Metal Gear Solid game of all time, Metal Gear Solid 3. And let me tell you folks, I bought Metal Gear Solid 3 quite a few times. Don't believe me? And this doesn't even include the fact that I bought Metal Gear Solid 3 on day one, also bought Subsistence when it came out because I was obsessed with the game. I need more Metal Gear Solid 3! More Metal Gear Solid 3! Yes, I have bought this game many times. I have played it on many platforms, but you know what? The original Metal Gear Solid games, you know, when you're talking about 2 and 3, and even the spin-off games, are just so timeless in how you could play those games, because there's so much to do, there's so much to see. I have beaten Metal Gear Solid 2 at least 10 times. I have beaten Metal Gear Solid 3 at least 20 times, and I always feel like there's something that I might have missed, and maybe something along the way that I just didn't realize was happening, and it's just such a great series and such great games, and I think that would really lend itself. We've seen them released on other platforms, and yes, it would be yet another port for the Nintendo Switch, but this would be a great port. Imagine being able to play console quality Metal Gear games anywhere you go. Sure, you can do it on the Vita, but can you hook your Vita up to the TV via the dock? I don't think so. Plus, the Nintendo Switch screen is much better. But like I said, there are a lot of other possibilities when it comes to the compilations, and that includes things like Hudson Soft and Konami. It could even be something like a retro Konami collection. Imagine if they released Castlevanias 1 through 4 on a single cartridge or something like that. Or maybe the Contra games on a single cartridge. We've seen DS games on the Wii U. We know that it does work. You can bring a DS game to a television screen and still make it look good. So that would be really cool to have some Contra games on there. It's really interesting to think about, though. It could just be a full Konami collection with various Konami titles from throughout the years, including some Hudson Soft games. And the dark horse, I think, has to be Super Bomberman, or Bomberman himself. Because let's face it, Super Bomberman R sold really well on the Nintendo Switch. And yes, it was a launch game for the system, and launch games do tend to sell better than their other counterparts. But still, the game sold really well, and Konami actually really supported that game really well. They added in a lot of DLC, they fixed a lot of things along the way, and they really showed that they cared about that game. It really showed that they cared about Bomberman, which originally was a Hudson Soft title, but when Konami purchased Hudson Soft, it became a Konami title. You're also seeing Super Bomberman R releasing for the PS4, the Xbox One this summer. I believe it's actually this month in June. So I feel like Bomberman is still fresh in a lot of gamers' minds, and there's a lot of great Bomberman games that could lend itself to a compilation. You know, you put in some online play with some classic Bomberman games, and that would actually be a lot of fun. But really, I think myself and a lot of other people are holding out for the two big IPs, those being Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid. There's so many games, there's so many different ways you can do, and so many different things you can do with it. You could do a Castlevania collection of old Castlevania games, and Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes HD for the Nintendo Switch, a remaster, or vice versa. You could do a new Castlevania 2D game and have the Metal Gear Solid collection in HD on the Nintendo Switch. I think either way, people would be very happy. I really can't sit here and pick which one I would prefer to see. Maybe I could. I think I would rather have the Metal Gear Solid HD collection on the Nintendo Switch, just because I want to play Metal Gear Solid 3 again. I want to play it again. I don't want to play it on my 3DS. I don't want to play it on my PS2. I don't want to play it on my PS3. I want to play it on my Nintendo Switch. Why? Because I can. I want to lay in bed and play that game. Great game. Great game. If you've never played it, you need to play it. But yes, so that's what I think Konami is doing with this, because I honestly feel like they realize some things with the Nintendo Switch. There's money to be made on the system. A lot of third-party developers are seeing some success on the system. So they've seen success on the system with Super Bomberman R. So why not try to branch out your wings? Something like a compilation doesn't really cost that much to develop. Something like a new 2D Castlevania game, once again, doesn't cost that much to develop, and it would really do well on the platform. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think Konami is going to do at E3. Do you think they're going to go the Castlevania and Metal Gear route, or are they just going to piss everyone off and release some crap that nobody cares about, which is probably the most likely situation now that I sit here and think about it, because it's Konami, and I don't know why I have any sort of faith in Konami, because they've screwed me over so many times. God! And as always, thank you for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And as always, if you really enjoyed the video, check out all the links in the description box down below. We got Patreon, t-shirts, social media, all sorts of ways to keep up to date with the ever-growing world of RGT 85. Con announcements coming very soon. If you're in the Northeast and plan on attending a con, you will more than likely see me, because I'm doing all of them, baby. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.
RGT 85. RGT 85. RGT